Hey, good morning, sports fans or sports card fans. It's Dan. I'm hosting Hobby Hotline this morning. It's Hobby Hotline. It's for collectors, and it's a special show. As you see from the screen, we have a special guest who we hinted at on the thumbnail, but I think people picked up on it. I don't know. It was like the shape of the head or something. I don't know. But anyway,
distinct shape.
We are welcomed. We are welcome, of course, with Hobby Hotline regular Victor, the rookie card specialist. Sir, it is so good to see you. I hope you're feeling better.
I am. Thank you.
And of course, Brody the Kid, who I should mention is less of a kid now because you turned 18. Happy birthday, sir.
Thank you. Yeah. Technically not a kid anymore, but, they'll stick around. Those name will stick around.
And our special guest, Tyler, otherwise known as Teapot. Thank you, sir, for joining us today. We're going to talk about an issue which you raised a couple of times, but I think the most recent one has really hit the hobby pretty big, and a lot of people talking about it. And we're going to ask you a lot of questions about it, some easy, some hard. But thank you, sir, for coming on, and appreciate you coming on to Hobby Hotline.
Yep, happy to do it. Looking forward to chatting.
I know I just got a text from my friend Mike, Junk Wax Hero, who I think you just did a session with him, right?
Just wrapped up doing a little podcast recording with him too. Yep.
Yeah. So I guess we'll get right into it. The issue, I called it, John put it on the thing, grading discrepancies, which doesn't really fully capture what actually happened in your video. And, I feel like the hobby has known for years that, you're always going to get potentially different grades, different cards. Different companies are going to grade things differently. The crack and submit or the crossover has always been a thing because people are always trying to get that highest grade. But I think what was illuminating about the video, Teapot, was that the discrepancies were so vast within not only the companies, one company to another, but the companies themselves. And I have a screenshot from the video. Let me just pull up a couple things here. One is the this thumbnail is so good.
I made those faces for you, Dan.
And what I should say is I looked at this is 3 days ago this video went up. I did this screenshot last night, so it's now 4 days. But and the view numbers have probably gone up, but you're at 132,000 views, which is insane.
Yeah.
But kudos to you. I mean, I know this has been a project since last year at some point, right? So tell us how this whole thing kind of started.
Yeah, I mean, I got back into the hobby in 2019 and have been, just as many people do, sort of sorting out my own hobby philosophy and ideology about like things and what matters and what doesn't. And as you referenced, everybody knows the dynamic that exists of the crack and cross, crack and resubmit, like over and over again. Some portion of the like 1,200 or so comments on that video now are like people just saying PSA stands for please submit again, so that dynamic exists. There's subjectivity. And the thing that's always been really mind-boggling for me is why is there such a huge premium on a card in a 10 or a gem mint with one company? And if it's got one subgrade slightly different based on the opinion of a third-party professional, like it devalues the card so significantly. So whether you argue that this card is only like achieving its full value potential by being a 10, and then it just gets incrementally devalued or even exponentially devalued as the grades go down, or it's some kind of great value multiplier by putting it into a slab and, and confirming the condition. Either way, it's always just rubbed me the wrong way. Like I can't rationalize it. Part of it for me might be that I have a really eclectic collecting style, and I like to collect a lot of different cards, and I can't really rationalize tying up like only buying one card in a 10 when I could buy 3 or 4 cards that I want of like similar value, raw or in a 9 or an 8 or some other grade. So I wanted to kind of put it to the test. One, because we know the crazy premium that PSA graded cards, PSA 10s command over the rest of the market from other companies. And so I wanted to compare them. That was the original video. Was I started with a true gem, true gem mint 9.5, not true gem. It had a 9 century gem mint 9.5 Beckett Griffey, Star Rookie, in the thumbnail. And then I went SGC, CGC, PSA, just to see what are they grading across the companies? How does this look? And then the second round, this video that the thumbnail you have up was really sending it to a couple others, Arena Club and Tag, who are more leaning into the machine vision, like computer vision type stuff, and then going back to SGC, PSA, and Beckett. I didn't run it back to CGC. Maybe I should have, but I was impatient. And just to see like the consistency within the grading companies. And that's where the results, I think, got most alarming.
Yeah. I mean, I think you showed an incredible amount of patience. This is a project that I think started in July of last year?
Yeah, sometime like early to midsummer last year. I don't remember the original date when I actually started submitting the cards, but yeah, it was it might have actually, I think I started submitting a year ago, and then like the first video went out last summer.
Yep. So, there's a lot of issues to cover here, not just the inconsistency, but I'll put on my tinfoil hat for a second here and talk about the conflicts of interest here, because when grading first started, and I'm old enough to have been in the hobby twice during the period when grading was not a thing, and that all of the power rested with at shows, certainly the guy on the side of the table that had all the cards and could put the prices on it and could call something VGEX, near mint, whatever. Inherent conflict of interest there. And the power dynamic was very much against the collector. And I've always felt that grading, at least from the outset, was sort of the great equalizer. But the problem is, as grading has gone on over the last 25 years or so, the conflicts of interest have sort of seeped into the concept, so that when PSA has a certain amount of currency in the hobby, and the currency in the hobby that it really only has over other grading companies at this point is resale value, because it doesn't have customer service, it doesn't have speed of return, it doesn't have beautiful holders. Obviously that could be different people have different opinions about that, but I think that PSA, knowing that their currency is their resale value, affects, I think, the way that they grade. So it was interesting to me that in the first video you did, you did a vintage card, which is my, my jam, and PSA, I believe, was the lowest grade of all the Pele card, right?
Yes, yeah, it was a BBG 5, and then I think it was CGC and SGC 3, and finished at a PSA 2.
And so I sort of come up with this theory that, particularly with vintage, and Jeff just did a video. I'm not sure when he did the video, but I just saw it recently, where the 39 Ted Williams is now, it was a 5, and then it was a 5 on the Beckett, great, what do they call the, initial grading, and then it went to PSA and it got a 3.
Oh, like the RCR, the raw card review?
Raw card review, that's right.
Yeah.
And that what you're talking about is that the only thing PSA has now is that particular card in a 3, which should be a 5, is going to sell for a lot more than, let's say, an SGC 3, which is probably, accurately graded. So you end up getting that currency of resale value simply by undergrading all of your cards. And that, to a certain extent, is what happened with the Griffey here, right?
That's interesting. Yeah, I mean, I've wondered, like, the Griffey's obviously a really iconic card, and we know there's a big price premium between the 9s and 10s, and people throw around like pop control and other things. I brought this up when chatting with Mike too. It's like, I don't know if it's outright pop control as much as just like additional scrutiny onto the cards that have the most public visibility. And if you consistently were to stumble across a bunch of PSA 10 Griffey rookies that very clearly weren't 10s, that's bad optics for the company. Whereas, certain other companies, I've looked at a lot of CGC graded Pokemon cards and found it to be pretty highly inconsistent when looking at CGC 10s, where I've done a few CGC submissions myself and sent them in, and they seem to be really hard. Like, they seem to grade really hard when I send a CGC, but then I can walk out on Cards HQ's shop floor every day that I'm there, and I do, and look at CGC 10s and pull them out and be like, this card is like 35-65 centering on the front, like a Pokemon card. How is this a CGC 10? Like, they even have a 9.5. Like, how would this ever qualify as a 10? And I don't really understand. So there's a lot of inconsistency there. They seem to be tougher. I don't know if it's like with the Griffey, if it's because it's an iconic card. If I were to do a different card of a different player, maybe even from that upper deck set, like if it would be as scrutinized or if it would be as low of a grade. But yeah, it's tough to know. I do imagine each of the companies does and ought to have a certain amount of their own discretion on how strict they are or aren't, maybe on certain cards, or just how they evaluate things in general from different eras.
Well, there's a couple of. I'm sorry, Victor. Go ahead. I've been doing too much talking.
No, I was just going to jump in on that. That was the one thing that was I was kind of skeptical about, was because cards from the 80s in and of themselves, let alone the iconic Griffey card, they just seem to like really, at least the speculation is that they grade those harder. There's this pop control concept. So I was wondering what made you want to choose that one, possibly knowing that. Why did you choose the Griffey?
I wanted to get at least one iconic card, and so I wasn't like lasered in on the Griffey, but the Griffey was for sale at Cards HQ. Like I just went out of the shop floor when I came up with this concept for a video and was like, well, let me start with Beckett and then kind of, run the gamut on through the other grading companies. So that was a year ago. And I saw that Griffey was one of the first cards I saw. And I was like, this is a perfect candidate because it's a visible card. I don't want to choose something. I don't want to choose two cards like the Pele, which was like a very obscure Pele too, and just not have it like resonate with anybody. And I also did want to do, I thought about doing 3 at the time, like one more ultra modern, one junk wax, one vintage. And I think these experiments could go on in that regard. I've got some other stuff cooking right now, actually, but I thought that was an interesting era to do it for the reason you just said. Like there seems to be a lot of variability. Jeff had ripped a box where he had hit a Jerry Rice rookie card and thought it looked like really clean,
really, really good.
Scrutinized it and was like, this has to be at least a 9. And either came back a 7 or an 8. And he was like, what the heck? Like this card looks so perfect. He was really confused by it. So, maybe maybe the expectation should just be, if you're sending these junk wax cards, expect a high degree of variability, whether it's to go from PSA 6 to 8, depending on the day and the grader, or, whichever company you're sending it to. I think it's going to have a lot of subjectivity to it.
No, and there shouldn't be, right? And I think this is what you're exposing is to me, I don't pay you to control the population. I'm paying you to grade the card. Let's
exactly.
get to that.
You would expect consistency within the company, right? Within the same company. Yeah.
Tyler, did you send the card? I'm curious. The cards were sent from Cards HQ, or were they sent from like an account that wouldn't flag it necessarily if that's something that happens at the grading companies?
Yep, good question. The first video, what I did was, this was before anything had ever gone out. Like there was no awareness of an experiment being done across, because it hadn't aired yet. So I bought the card in a BGS 9.5 from Cards HQ. I sent it to CGC myself. The second time, this most recent video, I had somebody else send it to SGC. They did not so I sent it. It was a guy that's like not an external facing employee. And I just said, hey, can you submit this for me? I don't know if it'll get like tripped or flagged or anything. I doubt it would, but you never know.
You never know. I mean, yeah, there are stories. So I'm sorry, I interrupted.
No, that's okay. And now I have to worry if I do any grading submissions to anybody, they're just going to be like, just anything I send them. So I sent it to SGC and CGC myself. And then the first time that it went to PSA, it went through our bulk submission, which is partnered with Got Baseball Cards out of Loganville, Georgia, across town from where we are, because they were our bulk submit partner before we opened to the PSA drop-off counter in Cards HQ. So that one was sort of anonymized into a bulk sub. And then this time around, I did send it to Tag and Arena Club myself. I sent it to, I mentioned SGC. I had another guy send it. And then I sent it to PSA myself and Beckett myself. So, you could argue that it was on somebody's radar or something else was going on there. But I also did variable service levels. Like the PSA one I did in a more expedited fashion. And the final one was the Beckett, where I just kind of my patience, I was just too enthusiastic to get this out. And I sent both of the cards to Beckett as a 5-day turnaround. It was like $283 for these 2 cards.
Wow.
Only to get my original $1,700 BGS 9.5 Griffey devalued 99% to $17 or so in an authentic trimmed holder at the final stop.
You can always send it in again.
I'm going to frame it. I'm
Part
taking it
3.
to Hobby Lobby. It's going in a shadow box with the labels, and it's going to go on my wall.
Well, this is I mean, it has more value, intrinsically. You could sell it as the teapot Griffey.
I've had like 7 people reach out to me and want to buy
For
it.
real.
One guy was like, will you sign it and sell it to me? Like I'm like, I don't know. We'll see.
That'll sell.
So I have a question. I took a screenshot because there's this point in the video, and I was enthralled with this video. I was watching it. I was like, it wasn't like on in the background, and that point where you're just sort of so frustrated and befuddled, and I don't know what other fancy word I can come up with, but you're just kind of like you've reached your end of your patience here. And I thought this was a good screenshot. So what is it going through your head at this point as you're sort of trying to communicate? And like I said, you're on videos all the time. You're an excellent communicator, but at this point, you were kind of speechless, right?
I was, and I think I even said it's rare that I'm speechless, but I really was. Every time the card came back, the Griffey in particular came back from one of the grading companies, and the result was just different than everywhere else it had been, I would just like start laughing. And part of what was going through my head was, this video is going to go crazy because this is so crazy. These results are crazy. Like, it's not like I sent in the Griffey and it just went 959, 959, 8595,
Right.
like across the companies. And that would have been like, okay, wow, thanks for the experiment. No, this was like everywhere from a PSA 6 to a BGS 9.5 to a tag oversized do not holder, and 2 companies that once upon a time, graded it saying it's trimmed or vice versa. So it was the whole gamut, the whole range of grades. So I was just looking at it going, I think more than anything, what was going through my head is, what are any of us doing? Like, everybody's paying like these huge premiums for these grades, for these third-party opinions of somebody they will never meet. They don't know who it is. They don't know what their level of training or expertise is. They just know they want it to come back a 10. It's what everybody wants. They just send it in, or they want it to come back in the highest possible grade that it could for its given eye appeal and aesthetic and condition. And so that was what was going through my head, is as we think about all these like record-breaking sales every single week now, pretty much, for a given card or for the biggest cards of all time, and that premium that's put on a PSA 10, even on one of ones, like serial numbered one of ones today, and it's a PSA 10, and it's got an NBA gold sticker, and Fanatics gave it their highest eye appeal rating, and it's like, what about the card? Like, why is there this huge value multiplier for these things when this is literally just proving like you can game the system and, just convince somebody that it's worth so much significantly more. And then what also perplexed me was the fact that the Mewtwo, the random Pokemon card, not random, but the Pokemon card I chose to go on this journey, had gone 8.7, 8.7, and then came back authentic evidence of tampering. So both of them on the $283 expedited submission came back completely devalued. Thankfully, that was on Jeff's credit card and not mine for the grading cost.
When you have a video with this level of sort of, the amount of views, you're going to get lampooned a little bit. And I don't know if you saw it, but I think it was one of the guys on IG that does like the comedy clips did a comedy clip where they were doing you opening up.
I thought you were going to say like poking at me in the comments. No, yes, that was, oh gosh, what? Yeah, I watch all of his stuff. I can't think of his name. It's hilarious. I reshared it to my story.
I think his name is Kyle. I think it's Kyle. Like
it is Kyle, yeah.
The Maryland guy. He's in Maryland, but he's very funny. But he did a thing where you were like screwing up the
he did the AI thing where it made him look bald, and he's like, all right, just gonna this is a little tougher than I thought. And he like cuts the card in half and just is like, all right, looks good. I didn't damage it at all.
You scared me to death with that Pokemon with the tag. Oh my goodness. I says, here we go.
I really freaked out like during that. The tag slab just snapped in half, like vertically down the middle of the card. I was like, oh gosh. I mean, you know, if I would have damaged it, I would have been like, oh, I damaged it. Like, you know, now that experiment's over, and you got to worry about that. Like cracking cards is no joke. Although the bottle opener method with the PSA slabs that I tried near the end, I've done with several others now for experiments, and it works almost alarmingly well. So
Yeah, I saw that.
Well,
Hey, I was
I'll
wondering.
admit I have cracked, but not that much, so I'm not that good at it.
Yeah, me
Used to
neither.
be SGC slabs used to be super easy. You just take a big butter knife and turn
that's
it.
all I do. I just take my little short chubby flathead and just pop it along the seams, and they just come right open. It's kind of freaky.
So I should say, Victor, I'm sorry, but I haven't paid any attention to the chat yet, and we have a nice group of folks here. So let me just go through the chat a little bit and say hello to everybody. 20 minutes into the show. Carl from Oz, hello. I know Carl had a broken hip, I think, and it was in surgery, but I think he's out now. So hope you're doing well. Carl, Mad City Brew, hello. Stuke, congratulations on the Hall of Fame, sir. Much deserved. Phil Necro fan is here. Craig, how are you? Peter B. Mike J. Hawker. Mad City. Philly Joe, Abe in Vegas. I'm sorry, guys, I'm rushing through, but
I liked that comment.
I want to miss out. Foul Ball, Larry Gitland. Southern Land Cards. I don't know you, but welcome in. Hello. Of course, Orlando. I know him. How are you, sir? Dylan Double D's here. David Chase made a really nice comment here, Tyler. The video is one of the most important videos for the hobby that I've seen in years. It should be watched by all collectors to uncover the nonsense of grades. I mean, I'll show my comment on this, which is kind of similar, but I think the concept really should be that you need to put the right emphasis on grades. And I think that was one of your points, is that we put too much of an emphasis on grades.
Absolutely. Yep.
The Record Person, hello. Mellow Mint, how are you? Stephen, hello. I think I got basically everybody who is participating, but we did have some really good. I know Mike Petty is here. I'm sorry, guys. There's like hundreds of comments. Oh, Tony is here. Kudo Lev is here, guys. So I start 4 comments. This is David Chase also. I've sent many cards to grading companies throughout the years that have come back as min size or altered. And then I sent to another grading company and almost always get a number grade. And this has also been my experience. Victor, you want to chime in on this one, and then before we get to Tyler?
Yeah, and I think it's kind of what Ty's done here. I've had this happen as well, and the inconsistency, I think, is key to the video that Ty did, because he's proven inconsistency, and it's documented on a very big channel with lots of views. And I think that's the biggest plus for the hobby is that we now have something, evidence that we can take to court for Dan and he can really use something like this. But it's one of them things, man. At the end of the day, I'm bewildered, just like you were, Ty. I found myself in the exact same position that you were at the end of your experiment. And I was just like, man, there's just a level of inconsistency that proves that it's subjective, that it proves that it's human error. It proves that it's depending what kind of mood a person is in. And you gave a list of things that people can be going through, whether they're coming in angry or they're coming in hungover or they're coming in. All of that is going to affect the way a person grades a card. And that's, I think, at the gist where the grading companies have to grab hold of and find a solution for that. Now, I did notice, Ty, in your video, I didn't read all the comments because there were so many, but I did notice Tag really leave a lengthy comment on this video. Yeah. And kudos to them for stepping in front of that, right? Have you heard from any other grading companies in your comments or personal DMs?
I've not. Nobody else has said anything. And my theory around that is, you know, when you're the little guy, kind of the up and comer, the challenger, the underdog, you have to be active and visible like that. You have to be coming out and saying, you know, we appreciate it. We appreciate the exposure. You're trying to be really transparent about what your practice is and what differentiates it. And when Peter Steinberg was running SGC, you know, his approach was to come out and just be like, anytime they made a mistake, it was like, oh man, guys, like we made a mistake. My bad. We love you all. Thank you for calling out the mistake. We're working to get better every day. It was enthusiasm. It was transparency. It was zeal, and it was appreciation for everybody that supports SGC. And he sort of built that rally cry behind them. That was like, and he would often say, ironically, we're coming for PSA. We're coming for them. We're going to take them down, you know, and we deserve to be in the mix. And then obviously, you know, PSA buys, the collectors buys SGC, and that goes away. When you're the big guy, the incumbent, that's not the PR strategy. Nobody does it. Like if you were to talk to any PR person, they're going to say, you don't do that. You don't put any kind of a spotlight or magnify any critique of anything you do. There's no upside to it. At least that's how most people operate. I think you could make a case that you should be more, you know, transparent and lean into some of that stuff. But we know that every single person out there who has any beef with PSA or any skepticism about them, they're just looking and waiting and watching for anything that they can critique and criticize, and then magnify probably significantly beyond maybe what it needs to be or deserves to be. But they put them into the spotlight. And that's just the cross of being the incumbent, of being the big guy, of being anybody. You know, the same thing happens to my boss, love him or hate him, is that if he does something wrong or says something, you know, silly or whatever, that's what gets magnified across a lot of people. Yeah. And if he does things or says things that actually are insightful or are helpful or educational or inspirational or entertaining, like those don't get, you know, proliferated across groups that are just looking for a reason to be critical. And so nobody else has reached out. You know, I thought that was great that Tag did chime in and say, hey, we're out here and we're trying to be better. And I was just honest about my experience with them too, you know, the good and the bad. Some of the submission process was clunky and cumbersome, but their service team was really Johnny on the spot and responsive. And I was able to get it all figured out.
Yeah. So with PSA actually having a reception area at Cards HQ, that potentially creates a situation where there could be a little bit of a friction between you necessarily or you know, Cards HQ and PSA. But I guess that has not been the case, huh?
I don't know. I mean, you could say this is like a big black mark on them, but like my opinion is, and I think you were just alluding to it, is and the inconsistency is inherent to the current grading paradigm. It's not unique to PSA. It is not unique to one company. It is any company doing this with human beings, because human beings are inconsistent and imperfect. And
good point. I mean, I feel like PSA could be saying to you, hey, thank you for proving that we all suck, not just PSA.
Yeah. I mean, the original impetus behind this, like I said, was to make the comparison across the companies and to kind of see like maybe who grades more strictly or who, you know, who's doing this, and then to run it back through that consistency litmus test. Like you could do this over and over again. And I think you just continue to experience this wide range. And I think these grading experiments are important for that reason. The one thing that I would hope is I did hear Nat Turner in the past say essentially that this doesn't happen. Like that it's very, you know, consistent, and that they don't have these types of inconsistencies. And you just can't, like, that's not a smart thing to say. It is, you know, maybe you don't want to talk about it, but don't say it's consistent, because it's absolutely not. There's no way it can be, for all those reasons that Victor, you were alluding to from the video. Mm-hmm. And it's other things too. It's like, start at the highest level. When you send your cards to get graded, it's going to any number of the different graders that the company has for that particular era or segment or sport, or however they divvy it up. So if you were to send the same card, if I sent that same Griffey in just to PSA 20 times over the next 3 years, I don't know that it would be graded by the same person twice. So there's going to be an inherent variability there. And then you start getting down to the individual person, and yes, their mood and their commute time in and their level of sleep and their, hungover state or whatever, all those things come into play. But like, what about just their level of training and the quality of the trainer and the training that was done, and then how that company was or wasn't able to convey their particular set of standards, and then just the inherent subjectivity of how they make a judgment call about how much something like the positioning of a logo on a full bleed borderless card should or shouldn't affect the centering and the overall individual numerical. There's so many factors that I just don't think they can, you know, I don't think it can be consistent within the current way that it's done to the level that most of us would expect or hope that it could be.
And
So
technology
this is actually a point. I'm sorry, Victor, go ahead.
technology is not there yet, you think?
And to some extent, I think it is. And when Ryan Hogue was on Neo's channel recently, he alluded to the fact that they are using some of that, at least, to like evaluate centering. He didn't go into a lot of details, but if you look at something like what Tag is doing, what I can say for sure about Tag, based on other videos that I've seen, is that they're not consistent. Like they've claimed too that if they like digitally fingerprint your card, and if you send it back and back and back, as long as you don't damage it in the process, that it should only have like a 3% variability in the different scores that they evaluate. But I just watched a video last night. I came across it on my YouTube feed of a TCG collector, a Pokemon guy, who cracked and resubmitted a whole bunch of Tag's graded stuff that he did back to Tag, and it was really, really variable. So like I think that's maybe the reason why they haven't like publicly gone to the national and been like, we're going to crack this same Tag card 50 times throughout the day and very publicly run it back through our machine over and over again and have it analyze it and show you guys that if it says it's 5248 centering, it's coming out 5248 centering every single time. And if it says it's this defect, it's going to capture it and assign this number grade. I think they're still struggling with that. So there has to be some measure of like human evaluation to it. And I mean, every card's different. So I don't know how you would like people throw around that term AI. Tag's not doing AI grading. Right. Tag's doing machine vision grading. Like that's a different thing. And maybe they're doing some machine learning to standardize centering or something. But I don't know how you could just rely on that, because every card's got its own quirks and traits. And I think grading should be first and foremost about authenticity, and then secondarily eye appeal. So like the universality of the standards of just like corners, edges, centering, surface, I don't know that those can be like as standardized from one card to the next as maybe people like think that they could or should be.
So there was another question here. Does the panel believe that collectors are at a breaking point on grading? And what does that mean moving forward? I mean, I have been showing this recently. These Penny Sleever now has different things for vintage cards for these magnetic one touches.
Oh yeah, look at this. I've got the little like T206 holder, here that some of them make. So,
so I people have said, yeah, I'm not grading anymore or whatever, and it's. For years, SGC was my go-to as a vintage guy, and I knew that I was going to get my cards back in a certain amount of time. I knew the grades were going to be fair and pretty close to what I anticipated, and I knew that if I had an issue, I could email Brent, and he would email back the same day. And none of that exists anymore, except I don't know. I have a submission that's coming in, just moved over to post grading, so we'll see. I think their numbers are still pretty consistent, but we'll see. Creates an issue for me. Like, why do I grade a card? And there's a number of reasons why I grade cards. Particularly depends upon what the point of the card is. Am I putting in my collection? Is it something I want to have authenticated? It's all different kinds of issues. But the point is that some cards now I feel like I don't have to grade, and so I can put them in those mag holders, and I'm perfectly fine with that. And this video opens up for me the concept that like, I don't even know what I'm getting,
Yeah. Victor, I don't know if you have any response to that. I've got a few thoughts. But.
Yeah, I just think I think they are at a breaking point due to the amount of submissions. I think it's worse than we actually think or know. I just think the volume that they're taking in is a big part of the inconsistency story. And at least until they get that under control, and I don't know how they're going to do that unless they shut down for 3 months or 6 months like they did back in the pandemic.
I would like to see a company like PSA grade your own baby. I would like to see, I do have tag holders of like pictures of my kids that I got at the National that are actually pretty cool from a couple of years ago. They were doing that at like on site, and it was a kind of fun thing. But One Yeah, I grade cards for different reasons too, Dan. One thing I would like to see collectors do, given the glut of Pokemon that they've gotten over the last 18 months or so, how much that's upticked and how much that's negatively impacted sports card collectors who want to be able to send their cards into PSA, is actually split and bifurcate those two business units into separate wings, maybe even a separate warehouse, a separate a building, or at least just two completely different business units operationally, so that you have a dedicated receiving and shipping and sorting team for sports cards, so that this new stuff, like, I don't know what else would even be out there to like suddenly have an uptick, but like even other TCGs that are more new, like One Piece and other things, are just becoming really popular too. And if that company starts pumping out those cards like crazy, it's not unreasonable to expect that they could suddenly be getting like 300,000 to 500,000 One Piece cards per month sent to them now too. And you've got to be able to account for that. And like, we sports card collectors, and I do have some Pokemon and stuff too, but we sports card collectors are kind of going like, hey, like we were here first, like stop like penalizing us with increased costs and increased turnaround times because like the new kids have arrived, and then you guys like liking vintage too. It's like really like, hey, I was here first. Like, where's my service? I've lost that, and I'm getting punished for all these, all this glut of new business for you. So splitting those two things would be, I feel like, would operationally make sense and would allow them, give them more flexibility to flex costs as they need to control backlogs and other things that Ryan has talked about. My main thing, the thing I grapple with the most is if I were to spin my computer around, it would like knock all my cards on my desk over. But you can kind of see behind me, I've got these just acrylic shelves that I ordered off Amazon and 3M stripped. You can see one of the blank 3M strips in there. But my whole office is set up that way, and I need more because I like to display my cards. And most of them, 95% of the cards in here probably are in one touches. I just like them that way because I don't want to be forced to put 3 times the cost into a graded slab to get a PSA 10 when I could buy 3 cards that I want. Like, that's just I like the variability. I'm eclectic, and I like having a bunch of different stuff. So, but the part that I wrestle with is that the hobby as a whole puts such a premium on graded cards, even 9s, in terms of like the liquidity of them, that it's much easier to sell them if they're graded. And so I kind of start to wonder, like, if I could choose, if the card is somewhat ubiquitous, somewhat accessible, maybe I should be buying the PSA 9 in spite of the fact that I don't care, just because if I do go through like a consolidation approach with some of the stuff, which I do periodically to like upgrade or to try to keep my budget, liquid, like it's easier to move. I sent like 350 cards to Fanatics Collect late last year to kind of see how viable of a marketplace is it compared to eBay, consigning to eBay. And about 85 of those cards were graded, and the rest of them were raw, which I had to send through their $3 CGC authentication to like be able to list them on their fixed price marketplace. The graded stuff sold almost right away. And I think a big part of the reason why is because so many repackers like scour all these websites and they buy them, and then they just put them into their digital or physical repacks. They don't do that with raw cards because of the condition variability. And so all the raw stuff that was on the fixed price marketplace, it moved, but like slowly. And it was most of it, a lot of it competitively priced. It's just not getting the same eyeballs. So all that to say, there's sort of like, I have like an internal like battle. Like, I don't care that it's graded. I actually prefer the aesthetic and the look of a one touch over the distraction of the label and everything else of the card. But if I do want to be able to sell it later, especially if I wanted to get top value out of it, selling it to somebody else, like, you almost feel like you're forced to send it specifically to PSA to try to get the 10.
I think Jeff accused you of being a collector here this past week.
Yeah. Terrifying accusation, but no,
I don't see you doing this, but in the real world, at shows, I set up at shows, and a lot of my non-graded cards that I have in my inventory sell. In fact, I would say the last show I did, I sold maybe 2 slabs and hundreds of ungraded cards. And it's different online. It's a different animal selling in person and online. So
It is.
I think you're just going to have to start opening up at shows. Doing
Yeah,
shows.
I would actually. So I want to be able to set up a show. The problem I've had is, well, I have 5 kids. They're 10 and under. I'm busy. I work a fair amount, and then outside of that, I'm like, my weekends, like even this morning, it's nice. My wife's like, yeah, I understand. Kind of big video this week. Go talk to a few different people, but right after we get done here, I got to go to Costco. I got to go do the errands and do the things. But my Sundays in particular are like family church and family day and
Yep.
that type of stuff. And the only recurring local show here is called the Windy City Show, and it's on Sundays. That's it. It's on Sundays. So like, I do need to actually try to just book some time to like get set up at another show. We've got Front Row Card Show coming to Atlanta soon. There's other stuff. If I had to, I could travel up to Chattanooga or somewhere in Alabama or something if I wanted. But it's just the time commitment piece away from family. But I do think it would be fun.
Ty, did you get any like pushback from this video?
From Jeff?
Well, from anybody.
Well, so internally, no. Jeff knew I was running this experiment, and honestly, every time the grades would come back, and I'd be like, "Look at this," he just was like, "Ooh," like that doesn't make anybody feel good,
Right.
But so nobody internally gave me any pushback or anything like that, and I think part of it, again, like I'm not trying to like create some kind of like a damning accusation against grading or anything. Like I just want it to be realistic expectation for people to understand it. Externally, I only saw one comment like from anybody that who I recognize, and that was Cage Lawyer, like commented on Collect's post on Instagram and said like, he basically accused me of like trimming the card myself or damage of like doing, or actually I think what he said was like he thought I switched the card out and was like skeptical that I had actually sent the same card every time and maybe it was a different card. And I responded to him and said, look, it's fair to be skeptical. I understand the skepticism, but like I didn't do that. And anybody who knows what I'm doing, it's not about, I did not do this video to try to get 150,000 views. That wasn't the purpose of it. It's not really the purpose of any of the videos that I make for the most part. It was more about this, the conversation, the dialogue, the exposure to the paradigm to say like, let's all think about this and talk about it.
Yeah.
You think I did some funky business, like fine, but like either way, the reality's there. So, it was a bit of I never know what to make of Cage. I like him, but he I don't know why he would think I would do that.
So you really did 2 videos, and going back, the first one was good, but the first one, it was like, okay, this is what I expected to happen.
Yeah.
And the second video, the sequel, you actually did a better sequel than the first one. It's like The Godfather 2, you moved on. The sequel is the one I think that really hit the nerve, because it wasn't just, oh, we all know this. It was a bunch of stuff that I think was surprising to everybody, including yourself, as we saw from that screenshot.
Yeah.
But you did say one thing, and I quoted it here. This is my comment, which has 209 likes. I have to say that I have videos that don't have 209 views. This is a little humbling. And it said that's not an indictment of the grading industry, grading business as a whole. And that's a quote from you, because you were saying it right as I was quoting it. And I said, except that that's exactly what it is. You did amazing work here and proved exactly what we had all feared, that grading is basically pin the tail on a donkey. And my point is essentially that, you did, it is an indictment of grading as a whole, because you don't know what you're going to get, right?
Maybe the more explicit phrasing in there was was that I don't like to attribute malice, or like, there's a difference. So my thought in that was like, what's the intention here? I think the intention of grading companies, they're for-profit businesses. So that's the world we live in. We live in a capitalistic society with mostly for-profit businesses who are trying to make money. So there's always going to be an aspect of that, whether it's Fanatics and Tops, or, or the grading companies, or Cards HQ, or anybody, we're trying to make money. But I don't like to attribute imperfection to malice. So that was my thought process in like, it's not an indictment of them as people, as scammers. I don't think they're scammers. I don't think they're nefarious. If anything, it's just misleading. And that's why I think if like in the past, if you heard like somebody like Nat Turner say, like, we don't have a problem with inconsistency. You do. Everybody does. You can't not. You have to be honest about this. Now, I understand you want to try to protect your reputation, and that a lot of this like is predicated on the trust that people put into your professional opinions over another company or over even their own now in most cases, their own ability to judge the eye appeal. But that's more what I meant. But yeah, I guess in a way it is an indictment of the emphasis that's placed on grades today and like how much people think of the grade versus the card intrinsically itself.
I think I compare it to like a cold glass of water being thrown in our faces. And it's kind of like a wake up, people. This is the reality of the grading conditions right now. So great job, man. Great job to you.
I mean, I think too, like just like a silly example is, if you go to a restaurant, how many people ask the waiter, like, hey, how spicy is this dish? And they're like, how spicy is it? And I was a waiter for 3 years at Red Lobster, and you know, there'd be like Cajun blackened fish and things like that. And I'm like, I have zero ability to actually answer that question in a way that's going to match your experience.
Right.
Because if you're telling me, well, I don't do great with spice, my answer is just going to be, then don't do it. You know, like this, don't get something else. Just get it grilled or whatever. But that subjectivity of how people experience spice in their food could be the same subjectivity that someone experiences looking at a card, like visually and aesthetically. And it's just the same as design. I can hold up this card, and it happens to be a PSA 10 because it's the only copy I could find. But you guys could be like, I think that card looks stupid. It looks washed out. And you know, I don't like the camera angle and whatever. And I'm like, I think this card's borderline amazing, perfect, you know, flawless in its design. So there's subjectivity in the design. And I think there's subjectivity in the interpretation of condition across graders.
Yep.
Yeah, the concept, you know, I'm not a big proponent of the PSA as a scam thing because, you know, it depends on how you define scam, and you sort of defined it more in sort of like intentional fraud, which there certainly isn't. But if you define scam as sort of promising one thing and delivering something else, that to me, you know, I guess I sort of buy into that to a certain extent. And a lot of that is what you know, what you've sort of shown here. And again, I'm not happy with this, with what people are saying. Some people are saying in the chat is that, hey, this is grading inconsistency. We knew this already. And I think maybe that would be kind of the criticism of the first video in this 2-part series.
Yeah.
But the second video, I think, was a whole different level of inconsistency.
Mm-hmm.
And when you start throwing in things like, you know, one saying it was trimmed and one saying it's oversized. I mean, to me, that's like, do you not have a ruler? It's like one of them is supposed to be AI grading telling us that it's oversized.
The theory that one person brought up to me with the Griffey saying it was oversized and also trimmed was that it may have come from an uncut sheet that was then like hand cut and therefore showed evidence of trimming, but was also cut too large. And that actually maybe makes sense. Maybe the card is trimmed. Maybe PSA didn't catch that it was trimmed twice. And maybe Beckett this time around on a 5-day service level with maybe a higher skilled grader or something. I don't know how they break that stuff down. Like, just put more scrutiny to it. Maybe they caught it. Maybe SGC did once, and maybe Tag's right too, that it was, if it just measured too large. I actually had, I saw 3 other videos, and I think I got 2 IG DMs from people who said that they sent Griffey Star Rookies to Tag, and every single one of them said they came back too large to holder. So it may just be the Griffey card itself too. Like, maybe it was just because the measurement on the dig report that they gave me was like, it was like 2.53. It's supposed to be 2.50 or something. Like, it was like very, very, very minimal. So I don't know so much it was like it doesn't fit in our holder as much as, which is what they made it seem like, as much as just we don't feel confident holdering this because it doesn't match our normal card standard size. I don't know.
Well, let me throw out one of my pet peeves here. And in the vintage world, you know, printing since 1989 has gone, you know, there's so much more technology to be incredibly consistent. But imagine printing in 1947.
Yeah.
And modern grading saying this card, minimum size not met because it came out of Bond Bread decided to make cards in 1947, and they're supposed to make them all identical size-wise, with a little bit of a variance. But let me tell you something about the pop report on this card. This Tommy Holmes card has been graded by SGC like 30 times. 15 of those are minimum size. It's like at some point, what is the size? Is the size the ones that you've said minimum size not met, or what? Because you get a variance. And so
why are you trimming all those, Dan?
Grading it's just, I'm sorry. It's just, I have a thing up my ass about this. And I'm actually probably going to crack this and 2 others that had the same thing happen to it. Crack them and send them to CGC, where I think they're a little bit more lenient on older cards and the variances and the sizes. Here I am. I am the trim man. Anyway, so we're 51 minutes. This has been a fascinating discussion, and I am so happy not only that Ty came on and agreed to do this with us, but Victor, a person who I have a great amount of respect for, and whose show I was on not that long ago, and it was a nice experience. Thank you, Victor. We've been able to talk about this in a rational way. We got some really nice comments from the chat, maybe some unnice comments, but that being as it may. We were going to talk about another discussion in the next 9 minutes, but I think I'm going to skip that, and I think I'd like to continue talking. So Victor, if you have any other questions for Tyler, or if Tyler, you have anything to share with us, please do so. And chat, please, question away.
As far as this topic is concerned, I don't, Dan.
Oh, okay. Well, did you want to talk about money laundering being the hobby's dirty secret?
Yeah, if you want, we can dabble in
it. Can it be talked about in 8 minutes?
Yeah,
we got to be sensitive of Ty's time here.
Certainly. But here's what set this off for me. And I've come to realize that the person who bought this came out and said, no, I'm actually building this, whatever it is. I'm not a modern guy, so I'm not even sure what the special thing is. But this Josh Rosen card sold for $26,000. Josh Rosen was a first-round draft pick, was a complete failure in a class of other first-round draft picks that have all become major, quarterbacks in the in the NFL. Our mutual friend Carlos does the Josh Rosen collection, the Chosen Rosen, as almost a spoof of player collecting. But this person is not a spoof, spending $26,000. And the first thing I thought is like, this is money laundering, because money laundering is a thing. And so I decided to do it as a topic here, only to find out yesterday that this person actually didn't money launder, and that they really did buy this card for $26,000, because I guess they have stupid money they can get rid of. But it is an issue in the hobby, and it's something that we never talk about, because it's hard to prove. It's hard to know when it's really happening, but it's there. And we talked about this backstage, earlier this week when we were talking about this issue, and Uncle Rich brought up the fact that, hey, yeah, there were guys that used to come into shows in Colorado with bags full of cash from their pot stores and just buy cards with it because they had no place else to put the money. So did you have any thoughts on this particular topic, Victor?
I've never seen what like Rich is describing, but it would be a perfect opportunity to launder money at the sports card hobby, going into shows and that, something like the National, and just dumping a bunch of cash into this. And it's almost fail proof, because there's so many layers upon layers that you can go into this, that it's a perfect scheme, a perfect scam per se. But I've never seen it or experienced it, Dan.
Yeah. Okay. Well, I'm a professional. I have handled money laundering cases. I'm a professional money launderer. I'm a professional attorney who represents people who are sometimes charged with money laundering. So I know ways that it happens. A lot of times it comes from drugs, but sometimes, particularly in recent times, I think I just froze there.
You're back.
You're back.
Maybe we're not back for you. You hear us?
There we go.
Okay, we
We're
can
back.
hear you.
Sorry about that. Having some internet issues. So Epstein created crypto. Yeah, There's money laundering in crypto. So apparently I'm an expert in money laundering and trimming now. But if the internet is back here, sorry about that.
Yep.
There was a purchase of a card that got a lot of news a couple of weeks ago. The Illustrator card sold for what, $16 million, and the person who bought it was affiliated with, or his father was affiliated with FTX, and I've been following the litigation on that. And there's $100 million of money that that person's father owes to FTX's bankruptcy court. And my thinking is that it's entirely possible that some of that $100 million went in to buy that Illustrator card in a money laundering scheme.
Wow.
Just my idea, just my thought. But anyway, Tyler, do you have any thoughts on this?
I've seen, I know a lot of people talk about money laundering over the years, and I see it on, Instagram and on YouTube. And I'm certainly not a subject matter expert in money laundering. I haven't ever done it myself that I know of, and hopefully I haven't been a victim of it either. But I will say I can share my screen to show you the guy who bought the Rosen specifically.
Yeah.
Well, pop this up. So this guy actually is trying to complete the entire set. This is the 2018 Panini Rewards Kaboom 1-of-1 green set that he's trying to complete. So it was a multi-sport set. You can see he's got some soccer, Neymar, Pulisic, Favre. He's got lots of guys on here. And he's trying to complete this entire set, which not only requires deep pockets and commitment, but also like the ability to pry certain cards out of people's hands. Like notably my boss, Jeff, has the Tim Tebow as like one of his favorite cards in his collection that he doesn't really ever want to, release. So I had somebody reach out to me once upon a time wanting to overpay me for my Andre Drummond right here, conveniently in a tag holder, funny enough, because I did some PC grading with them. But this black Prism 1-of-1, somebody was trying to complete the entire 2018 Prism Black set. So those are like pretty audacious goals to try to track down every 1-of-1. You don't even know that they've all been found or, where they are, and then to be able to like pay up enough. So when I saw that Rosen card, I mean, my bigger question was, who was the underbidder? How the heck did that card get to $26,000 that another person was out there willing to pay like 25 for that card? Was that guy shill bid? Was he defensively shill bid? Was he, who knows what? Who's out there jacking him up? And that's the risk. In a way, if you're trying to achieve a goal like this guy is with this set, you kind of need to be public at a point, because you're trying to get as much exposure to let people know, hey, I'm a buyer, and come let me overpay for your card. But at the same time, when that stuff hits open auction, you're a prime target to be shill bid. Like, you're not going to let the card go. I don't know what his max bid would even bet on this card, but it's pretty crazy. I did look up a number that had stuck in my head, which is Justin Verlander. His most expensive card sale publicly, at least ever, is his Bowman Chrome First Refractor red to 5 in an SGC grade. I think it was like a 9 with a 10 auto, sold for exactly $26,400. So now one of the 3 greatest pitchers of our generation, his most expensive card has sold for the biggest flop of the 2018 draft, Josh Rosen, which is pretty funny.
Unreal.
Unreal. I don't know anything else about the money laundering enough to comment, but it is alarming, and I know it happens out there for sure. Yeah,
I mean, I did my research a little bit in the last few days just to have some thoughts on it, and it's one of those things, like I said, where if you do a Google search of money laundering and sports cards, you're going to get a lot of people saying, "Oh, it's this, it's that, it's this, it's that." It's like, it's one of those things that it's out there, everybody knows it exists, but nobody ever talks about it, because it is, like I said, it's a dirty little secret. And I think the whole sort of crypto, an unregulated market in crypto, an unregulated market in sports cards, it's something that's going to come up. And I think a lot of these, $10 million sales, there's only been 2 of them, but some of these high $1 million sales have the potential to have been money laundering. Even the tiny little ones you see for $1,000 on eBay, it's an issue, and it's something to keep an eye out for. But we're coming up on an hour, so I have to say, was perplexed. I love this screenshot.
Oh no, we lose Dan right at the end. We might have.
Yep.
Sorry,
There
guys.
you go. You're back.
There you
All
go.
right, guys. Yeah, I too was perplexed. So I love that screenshot. I'll save it somewhere. But the gist of it is that I think this was an important video for. Now I'm freezing again. I think this is an important video for many reasons. I think it's one of those things that people, you've gotten the views because I think people know that it's important. And I think you did an incredible service for the hobby here. But this experiment, and you showed a lot of patience. I mean, it took an hour, a year almost to do this. So not only do I thank you, Teapot, for coming on and spending a full hour with us. You know, I know you could be out at Costco and hanging with your kids, but you're hanging with us. And Victor, always, you know, loved being on camera with you, and I really appreciate your input here. So thank you both, you gentlemen, for this.
5 days to the World Baseball Classic, 26 days from opening day. So let's go.
Let's go.
All right.
So pumped.
Tyler, any closing thoughts?
Nope. I think be realistic, know what grading is and isn't. It's subjective, and love the card. You know, love the card. Look for good looking cards that you are passionate about, and just kind of go from there.
Yes. Thanks
Cheers.
to the panel here. Absolutely
Cheers to all
terrific
our
show.
viewers.
Thank you so much,
For
guys.
having me.
Take care, chat. You've been wonderful too. See you guys.
See y'all.